A giant crystal looms over Aultemus and the group, glistening in the sunlight as the rays shine and refract between the levels and its edges. Shadows and rainbows from the refracted light create the illusion of water dancing along the ground in the wake of the city. The crystal is shaped like a diamond, coming down to a point at the bottom with a large tower erupting from the top. The suburbs surrounding the city vary from stone to crystal, with the crystal buildings looking much rougher and more simple in design. Aultemus and Ciora walk side by side, with Fuson behind them, wearing Rylo's cloak. Rylo trails behind Fuson. The crowds are full as they're walking down the main street, and at the end is a wind funnel with many bipedal races taking it up to the city. There are humans, elves, and valkyries walking around of all shapes, sizes, and colors. The occasional bright sapphire or crimson valkyrie piercing the crowd. Rarely, there are snow-white valkyries, much taller and denser in build. In the sky, there are much more valkyries, sometimes joined by a human or an elf using fire or wind magic to propel themselves around. Occasionally, a squadron of 3 forest green armored valkyries swoop around, making daily patrols. Aultemus looks around, eyes wide, absorbing everything, although he had been quiet since they approached the city. Fuson jogs to catch up to them with a small gust of wind. Aultemus stumbles forward a bit. "You're not impressed, Pinehead?" "Pinehead," Ciora snorts. Funny coming from a Vaki. "Come on, you can't say that here. Maybe back in the trees where you're from. And yes, Pinehead. His hair looks like pine cones." "Oh my god," Ciora giggles as she covers her mouth with her hands. "It's pretty. I like the crowd. I don't stand out too much with all the colors," Aultemus comments, as they continue walking down the main street. The group walks up to the air funnel at the end of the street. Surrounding the platform are 8 Valkyries operating the wind tunnel itself, dancing in unison. Humans and elves casually walking onto the platform and getting pushed up into the city. But no one coming down. Fuson goes on ahead and flies upward. Aultemus, Ciora, and Rylo step onto the platform and slowly rise into the air. Aultemus struggles to keep his balance as they ascend and reach the bottom floor of the city. They push themselves toward the ground and land outside of the air funnel. Fuson swoops in from a landing window into the room. "You didn't want to use the funnel with us?" Aultemus asks Fuson. "Nah, I could, but it's easier to fly. The wind is a lot stronger for me because I weigh a lot less than I look," Fuson responds. As Aultemus scans the crowd, he notices 2 Valkyries whispering to each other, leaned over, staring at him. The Crystal City itself is embedded with shops and houses along the sides of the street, with wooden door frames identifying entryways into separate shops, and the crystal being frosted as to not be able to see into houses and shops. Looking up, you can see more floors with more people, and this creates a sort of kaleidoscope effect. The floor the group are on is filled to the brim with people, with just enough room to be able to walk forward with the crowd. Ciora starts to get dizzy and begins to sweat as her breathing gets erratic. She looks around somewhat calmly. "Hey, can we stop somewhere to eat, please?" Ciora begs the others. I don't know. Yeah, there's a place up here, I think," Fuson replies, gathering his thoughts. "Okay, thanks. I'll see you guys there," Ciora blurts out as she jogs forward, disappearing into the crowd. She looks around for shop names, looking for something that indicates a place to eat, and finally spots one and rushes in. Ciora sits at a table away from as many people as possible, exhales, and rubs her head. A Valkyrie waitress with maroon feathers comes by with a glass of water. "Hi, is there anything else I can get for you?" "No, I'm fine, thanks," Ciora mutters out. Ciora goes to grab the glass but notices her hand shaking. When she tries to pull the glass to herself, some of it spills, so she just puts it down. After about a minute, the other 3 walk in. They look around, spot Ciora, and meander over to the table. "What was that all about?" Fuson snarks as they all sit down. Ciora gives him a look. She shakes her head and rolls her eyes. "I just needed to get off the street," Ciora remarks back. "What, was it too dirty for you? There's a lot of people, but can you please go? Show Aultemus around or something," Ciora says, annoyed, pressing her palms into her hands. Fuson is taken aback. Not knowing what to say, he gets defensive. "What? Alright, fine. Come on, I'll show you around." The 2 get up and go outside, but Rylo stays seated, adjusting his seat a little away from Ciora. He gets up to casually walk over to the bartender. They have an inaudible conversation as the bartender pulls up a teapot and a cup. Ciora is still rubbing the side of her head as she glances over to Rilo for a second, sighs, closes her eyes, and continues rubbing her head. Rilo walks back and sits at the opposite end of the table. Keeping to himself, he pours a cup of what looks like hot water. "Why didn't you go?" Ciora says, annoyed. He replies. The two are silent for what feels like a long time. After about 30 seconds, Ciora looks up. Rilo, fidgeting, rubbing his palms on his legs or flexing his hand in and out of a fist. If it were me, I'd want someone to just sit here. Plus, we probably shouldn't split up, Rilo finally replies. Ciora's complexion relaxes as she puts her hands down. "So, how long have you been casting that spell?" Rilo asks her, looking at the table. Ciora raises her right hand from under the table, with her palm out toward Rilo. She makes a gesture, as though she was looking at her nails, but flicks her thumb from under her index finger. The faint sage-green glow fades in and out, lasting about a second. "How did you know that?" Ciora says, suspiciously, but smirking it off. "Oh, that was a joke. But I did feel something, so... I don't know," Rilo stammers. "It was just, something that makes people less observant. Can I have some of the water? It's kind of cold," Ciora says. Rilo nods and taps the cup as a light blue glow emits for a split second before he begins floating the cup over to her. I know how it feels not liking being around people. I'm trying to get better at it," Rilo stammers out. "It's not like that, but I appreciate it." Rilo's eyes widen. "Wait, aren't influence spells banned in public?" Rilo replies. Ciora freezes for a second, thinking. No, I don't think Valkyries ban it." Aultemus and a now hooded Fuson are walking down the main street. Fuson looks visibly frustrated, his eyes darting around, walking much further ahead of Aultemus, forcing him to catch up. Fuson is frantically looking around. He turns to look at Aultemus for a brief moment, his eyes an off-white color. Aultemus finally catches up to him as Fuson stops to stretch. All right, I'm going to show you my favorite tailor in town. I think we should get you some more normal-looking clothes and cover you up a bit," Fuson exclaims, suddenly full of energy. They look at each other. Aultemus notices his eyes are teal again, and simply disregards what he saw before. Fuson puts a wing on Aultemus's back, which when splayed out is as big as his whole body, as he pushes him to resume rushing through the crowd. Fuson will occasionally blurt out directions and is much more attentive as to where Aultemus is. Aultemus sticking out over the mostly Valkyrie crowd as it begins to get more and more dense. And as they turn a corner, Fuson bumps into another Valkyrie, his cloak snagging on one of their feathers as it comes off. A couple of Valkyries turn to look at him, and one of them yells out, "Hey, it's Fuson!" "Shit! Alright, I'll keep up." Fuson yells as Aultemus begins to panic, his body beginning to glimmer yellow beneath his scales. Wind erupts from Fuson's wings as he catapults forward, rapidly going down one of the hallways, Aultemus zapping upward in the direction that Fuson took, materializing his whole body, and occasionally stopping to inspect where he is, and zapping again to follow him. Some of the people in the crowd follow the two of them, the most extreme of which throw water or wind toward Fuson in the form of nets. Fuson weaves in and out between the various drapes, balconies, and magic, trying not to make contact with anything. Aultemus trailing behind him, Fuson dives down to Aultemus. "There's a secret way onto the next floor in the crystal. You won't see it, but it's there. Just follow me and don't stop." Aultemus nods as they pick up more speed. They reach the end of the street where it splits to a left and a right path. Fuson flies up toward the left, twisting within what seems like a wall in the crystal. Aultemus materializes rocks into a staircase on the side of the crystal wall. He looks closely and sees a sort of lip, and then zaps toward it, rematerializing over the lip. Aultemus barely fits, but manages to climb in and work his way onto the next floor. The two come out of the passage into an empty alleyway, darkened by the shop walls blocking nearly all light from entering the alley. Fuson, out of breath and sitting on the ground, waves to Aultemus as he comes out from the cramped passageway. "You're a lot more popular than I thought," Aultemus says, trying not to laugh. "What's so funny?" Aultemus pants, still out of breath. Oh, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. Running from people who love you? It's not love. They're creepy, weird. They don't even see me as a person. What? What are you talking about? How do you know that? I mean, I like the celebrities on my planet. Sure, but you just don't get it. And I don't think I can explain it to you. Aultemus looks around confused and awkward as he tries to get a word out. Look, don't worry about it. Just know that your celebrities are kind of shitty, Fuson states bluntly, letting out a quick sigh. Does that mean you're shitty? Aultemus blurts out. Fuson stops and looks at him, looks down at the ground, and simply says, kind of. Aultemus falls to the ground, and the two just kind of sit there, catching their breath. Well, we're almost there, Fuson starts before getting interrupted. Can we just go back? This is kind of a waste of time, Aultemus blurts out. I need to figure out how to get home, and we've split up, and they could have just left by now. Whoa, where did that come from? You've been chill the past couple of days, Fuson responds. I think Ciora put a calming spell on me. Alright, well, don't worry, we're gonna figure out how to get you home, but I guess we can go back. Aultemus and Fuson walk into the bar and scan the room. Not seeing Ciora or Rilo anywhere, Aultemus lets out a frustrated sigh. Now, where the hell would a socially awkward monk and a shrub with thighs be in a giant shiny rock? Fuson asks Aultemus, as his face turns from frustration to confusion. Aultemus laughs nervously as they both walk back outside. Fuson looks around into the crowd, stretching out his neck and climbing onto his tiptoes. See anything from up there, bud? Fuson asks, who is trying to look through the crowd still. Aultemus tries to look around. Alright. Do we just wait here, or do we meet up with Zenti and ask the guards to find them? Who's Zenti? Don't worry about it. Let's go, Fuson says confidently as he grabs Aultemus's arm between some of his feathers. You would think they'd be easy to see since they're taller than everyone else, Aultemus mutters to himself. The two of them make it down the main street and further progress into the heart of the city, surrounded by more shops, housing, and various other buildings that surround a central spire that has a slight updraft and a wide spiraling staircase along the wall. The central pillar creating a distinct kaleidoscope pattern on the floor, which seems very intentional. They begin ascending the staircase. They reach the widest part of the city. They look around, and the buildings are considerably larger as they go higher. The streets considerably packed, but not as busy as they are on the lower floors. And the color of Valkyries becomes dominated by greens as opposed to the hodgepodge of other colors on the lower floors, although you still see the occasional red, blue, or yellow Valkyrie. They walk up to a gate with two white large Valkyries with red and yellow tabards draping down their chests. These Valkyries are noticeably taller, wider, and their wings are more arm-like. Hey guys, we're here to see Zenti, Fuson says casually, feeling around in his pockets. The two guards look at each other and then at Aultemus, who's standing a few feet back, looking around the room with his arms crossed, pacing around. Fuson pulls out a small gold medallion with red leather holding it, keeping it to his side. Hello? Fuson remarks toward the guards, who are still looking at Aultemus. Oh, yeah, he's with me. He's fine, I'm just showing him around. He shows the medallion to the guards. All right, but what is he? One of the guards remarks in a low, skeptical tone. Fuson looks around as he tries to conjure up something to say. He's not from around here, so we're here to get some advice from Zenti. You shouldn't address her like that. Yeah, just let us through, Spruce. The taller white Valkyrie gives Fuson a sneer and moves out of the way. The two walk into a large castle at the top of the city. The crystals here don't look like they've been treated with frost and just simply cannot be seen through. Why were those two so much bigger than you? Aultemus asks. They're mountain Valkyries. They can't fly, but we try not to make fun of them for that. And what about Ciora and Rilo? We'll see what Zenti says, Fuson replies. The two are in a large, long common room of the castle, with steps on the far side leading further up into the castle, and two halls on the left and right. They walk forward and up the stairs, encountering various other Valkyries, humans, and elf guards on patrol. They walk up into an oval-shaped room with a rune in the middle and a soft updraft leading to floors higher in the tower. 3 doors in the cardinal directions around the room are all closed. A lingering pair of guards are chatting in this room and briefly look at the two before continuing their conversation. How are we able to just walk around here so easily? Isn't this the capital or something? Aultemus asked Fuson. I'm kind of friends with the queen. We've been... Fuson! A loud bellowing yell erupts from above and cuts off Fuson's sentence. A dark green Valkyrie wearing a red regal dress with gold trim swoops down from the spiral staircase and flies directly at Fuson. Her momentum causes her to crash into him and they tumble to the floor. The 2 guards, worried, run up to them, but pause when they see that the woman is sitting up laughing. How'd you know we were here? Fuson asks. One of the guards told me. Plus it's been forever since I last saw you, the woman replies. Come on, it's only been a couple months. Yeah, that's so long, and I need to have you around, Zenti exclaims, hugging one of Fuson's wings. Thanks. You know I need my bestie too, Fuson slyly smiles. So who's your friend? Zenti asks, walking up to Aultemus, extending one of her wings. That's Aultemus. He needed some help getting back home, and I figured I'd bring him to the only person that could probably help him. So you didn't come here to see me? Zenti gasps. Of course I did. I came here to see the smartest person I know, Fuson cheerfully replies. Zenti smirks and gently pushes Fuson's chest as she shifts her attention to Aultemus. Hi, my name is Zentia Elidori, Queen of the Valkyries and Lady of Talum. Zenti speaks with a degree of reserve while addressing Aultemus, as if she had just arrived, unaware of the conversation between Fuson and herself. Hello. My name is Aultemus. I come from another world. I was thrown here by my father. He told me to find my brother, but that was it. There had to have been a reason it was here, but he didn't... I don't understand, Aultemus replies, getting less and less coherent as the sentence goes on. It's okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Any friend of Fuson is a friend of mine. There really hasn't been anything notable that I've heard of. Is there anything else to your story? Any more details? Zenti responds, worried. So we were at that abandoned tower in the field southeast of here, and Markon showed up when we all first met for the first time. Do you know anything about that? Fuson remarks. Markon alone? There's no way. Zenti rubs her feathers against her chin, continuing to dig through her mind to try and recall anything of note. Someone appears from the spiral staircase behind them. The man appears to be a tall elf with sage-colored eyes, gray hair, wearing a blue and white robe. Despite his gray hair, his skin has no wrinkles, besides some indentations from his notable cheekbones. Hey, Jek, what have you heard from Creedom recently? Zenti calls out to the elf. Creedom? I heard that they had an interesting couple of visitors in town. Oh, hello. It seems we have quite the interesting guest here, Jek replies. Aultemus's face lights up and Fuson eyebrows furrow. Well, it sounds like we need to go to Creedom, and right now, Aultemus barks in confidence. No way, Fuson begins. Yes, it's quite dangerous to go. There's another human city about to plan an invasion. Their scouts have been saying that a lot of the population has just been disappearing, so they've decided to just begin an attack now. Jek explains. Aultemus doesn't really know what to say and stares around the room nervously. Well, we've got no other leads, so it should be a fun vacation, right? Oh, your skin is fireproof anyway, Fuson responds joyfully. Aultemus's nervous look turns into a nervous grin as Fuson walks up to him and playfully jabs him in the stomach. He recoils slightly and takes a step back. Ow, your feathers are really sharp, Aultemus yelps. You're not going, Zenti commands. I can't have you dying on me over someone I've never heard of. No offense. Well, hold on. There's like 4 of us. Which, by the way, we lost 2 of them in the city. An elf and a human. The elf was wearing wooden armor. Fuson begins before getting interrupted. Wooden armor? Jack raises an eyebrow. Yeah, do you know who they are? Or could you ask the guards to search for them? With the 4 of us, we'll be more than fine, Fuson explains. One of the guards walks up to the group. Sir, I heard of someone matching that description. There's an elf in wooden armor in the jail right now. She was casting magic in the city. I will come with you to see them, Jack blurts out. Wait. There were 2 other people you were with? And since when do you know a human and an elf? Zenti asks, confused. Yeah, we got separated. Could you maybe release them? Fuson laughs nervously. Sure. Jack, just show Aultemus to the jail. I want to chat with Fuson a little bit more. Just let them go. It doesn't matter, Zenti orders. Jack bows and motions Aultemus to follow him. Zenti motions the other 2 guards to follow and stands quietly with Fuson as they all leave. Jack, Aultemus, and the 2 guards walk back to the entrance of the castle. Aultemus fidgeting as an arc of lightning unconsciously stems from his body and harmlessly reaches Jack, who doesn't react besides lifting an eyebrow. They circle around the castle and find an entrance that leads down under the walls of the main castle. Jack takes out a rune from his pocket and pulls it up to the wall. An opening door appears as the rune glows. They walk into the well-lit lobby that has minimal furnishings, with 2 guards standing behind a table and some seating to the side, all carved out of the crystal. I was informed there are a couple of new additions, an elf and a human. I have orders from the Queen to release them, Jack commands to the guards. Yes, sir. Release them? Just like that? Yes, please just do it, Jack barks back. The 2 guards walk into the back and open up another hidden door by placing a rune on the wall. Siora and Rilo sit in one of the holding cells. There are windows on top of each other with red runes surrounding the borders. Siora has her hand on Rilo's back as he sits nervously, looking at the floor, his arms crossed and one leg bouncing up and down. It'll be okay. If anything, they'll let you go. I've never gotten in trouble. Rilo stammers out. The door opens. The 2 guards show up, uttering a quick, "You're free to go," and motions them to leave. Siora and Rilo look at each other and jump out. Siora immediately notices Jack, and an expression of surprise crashes on her face. Rilo, still anxious and keeping to himself, walks up to Aultemus as one of the guards hands him his cloak. You okay? Aultemus asks softly. Siora, Jack says. I didn't expect to see you here. You were casting a mental spell? Those aren't allowed here, I'm afraid. How do you know about our interesting guest here? Coincidence, Siora responds. Fine, Jack replies, rolling his eyes. Aultemus, I have a request of you before I let you guys go. Sure, what is it? Aultemus responds. Can I look at one of your scales? Aultemus gives him a curious glare and turns to Siora, who shrugs and gives him an approving nod. Sure. Splendid. Thank you, Jack gracefully says as he walks up to Aultemus, looking at him a little and reaching for one of his larger yellow hair scales. Jack's hands glow in a sage green color as he yanks a scale from the bottom of the formation. Aultemus is surprised that he doesn't feel anything. Jack bows and walks out of the building, the guards by the door motioning the group to leave. The 3 walk out, and the door closes and melds with the wall, leaving no trace behind. They walk out toward the courtyard and sit to recollect. The park is illuminated by meticulously placed holes in the massive crystal structure and is significantly warmer than the rest of the city, which is rather cold. Rilo lets out an angry sigh as he sits down on one of the benches. Aultemus, noticing, walks up to him and puts a hand on his shoulder. Hey, don't worry. We're out now. None of us are going to do anything, and you weren't in trouble. But we were. She used a spell that she shouldn't have. She wasn't allowed to... Ugh. Rilo stammers as his shoulders raise and he holds himself. I'm sorry, Siora mutters quietly as she clambers up. Her face gets red, like she's trying to hold something back. Aultemus glances between the 2 of them nervously and suddenly goes to hug Rilo. Takes them a second to react, but Rilo freaks out in response and pushes him away forcefully, enough to knock him to the ground. The group hears laughing in the distance and look to see Fuson walking toward them, having witnessed the entire scene. You guys are a mess, huh? Fuson shouts to them. I know. I'm an essential part of the team. Aultemus gets up from the ground as Siora jogs over to him and asks him if he's alright. Yeah, that happened to me too when I tried to hug the guards around Zenti because they don't let me hug her. Fuson continues as the three meander back to the bench Rylo's sitting on. Sorry, Rylo awkwardly and shyly spurts out. Aultemus's eyes skim the ground, and he sighs deeply. It's okay. Don't worry about it, he replies. Why don't we tussle it out to release all of the tension, Fuson gleefully quips. In the middle of a public area? Siora snidely replies. Can you not create an exclusion area? I thought you were from Jinsei. I just got in trouble for casting magic in the city. Yeah, and the guards around here know who I am, so just throw it up, Fuson commands in a cheerful tone as he pats Siora on the back. She hesitates, thinking hard about the decision, but ultimately gives in. Fine, she replies. She looks and goes into a statue-like pose, standing straight up with her hands above her head, open-palmed. She arcs her arms down, making two fists, and then bumping them together by her center. Siora takes her linked fists and opens them to put her palms together. She begins to emit a sage glow around her silhouette that gets brighter as she goes through the motions. She moves to extend her palms from touching. In one motion, a dome appears around her, as the green glow moves away like smoke from her silhouette. Another quick motion extends her arm directly outward, and the dome around her expands to encompass the small park that they're in. The green dome is extremely faint, like a rainbow miles away on the horizon. Siora finally relaxes. A rune under her left wrist pulsates gently on the inside of her arm, raising her left hand just above her waist, showing the rune that looks vaguely similar to the runes she used in the tower, with a dome shape around it. Yep, that's a Jinsei spirit aphanite all right, Fuson says, impressed. Thanks, Vaki, Siora sighs. Stop fucking saying that word, Fuson growls, Siora giving him a snide smirk. It can't be that bad if she's so comfortable saying it, right? In public? Aultemus remarks, Fuson giving him an annoyed look. Look, it's not that bad. I just don't like it, Fuson explains. Siora closes her hands into fists as the guilt gets to her. Sorry, it won't happen again, she replies. Well, let's start. The two bundles of nerves should go, as Fuson points to Rylo and Siora, who both look shocked. They both sigh, look at each other, and shrug, taking opposite ends of the dome, and take a prepared stance. They pace around a little, waiting for one of them to make the first move. Rylo slaps his chest as a sky-blue glow emits around him for a split second as he begins to float. Siora slaps her hands together as a cloud of mist sprays out from her hands. It looks like pollen and is easy to see through. She gracefully pushes one hand forward as a gentle breeze pushes the cloud toward Rylo. He doesn't react, but then Siora points 4 fingers on one hand and a beam of energy strikes Rylo in the leg. The other hand, glowing sage green in its entirety. Rylo then suddenly flies forward with one hand open and goes for a strike on Siora. But her glowing hand appears on a trajectory to hit him, and he kills his momentum, coming to a complete stop as Siora swipes in front of her preemptively. Siora, with her non-glowing hand, shoots out another beam, hitting Rylo in the shoulder. They then pace around for a second, before Rylo floating rapidly in a circle around Siora, getting closer with each rotation. He manages to slap her on the back as he immediately slides back onto the ground, and the sky blue glow emits from Siora for a second. She freezes and notices it hard to move. Rylo slowly walks up to her, before noticing his vision blur for a moment, and in that moment, Siora grabs him with her glowing arm, and he rapidly begins to feel tired and goes for one kick. Siora, struggling to block it, manages to get her arm up but takes the strike, then going for her own punch on Rylo's chest as she slowly begins to feel some control back. She lands a weighty punch as a satisfying thwack emanates, Fuson's mouth agape in astonishment as the cloud and dome both dissipate as soon as the strike lands and Rylo is knocked onto the ground. After a beat, Rylo gets up and sits crisscross on the floor. Nice hit, Rylo remarks. See, that was great. Although I forgot that you were both spirit and kinetic and probably wasn't my best idea, Fuson exclaims. Why? Aultemus asks. Again, I've never seen a kinetic fight. Well, because their strategies are the same. Once a spirit aphanite touches you, it's kind of over, and it's the same with kinetic, since kinetics control the kinetic energy of objects that they touch. They touch you and can control your body somewhat. Kind of like how spirits touch you and control your mind somewhat. so watching them fight is always kinda weird, Fuson explains. Alright, we all good? I think we have an adventure to go on. We're going to Creedom, right? There should be a portal here to Hocht, at least. Portal? Rilo asks. Yeah, the portals are usually kept a secret. They're for merchants and supplies and are in the upper rung of most major cities. But because I know Zenti, they should just let us use it. And Hocht is pretty close to Creedom. Hocht? Siora asks. So we'll be coming from the south? And there's a big forest to their south, if I remember. Yeah, don't forget the giant bridge. Oh, and Monkey Boy, give all your cloak. Those humans aren't very tolerant of colors, and we don't want him to get noticed too often, Fuson blurts out.